What's up, everybody? Justin here to do a new series of videos. I'm excited about these new series of videos. I'm excited about this series of videos. It's the Year in Wrestling, I'll just call it Year in Wrestling Reloaded. Go back, watch my first The Year in Wrestling playlist where I covered 1987 all the way to 2015 in pro wrestling. I covered NWA, WWF, WCW, ECW, TNA. Go back, watch a lot of my Year in Wrestling videos. A lot of them were very early on. I did them very early on. During the first year, the first couple months of my YouTube channel is when I did a lot of those Year in Wrestling videos, and they weren't very good because I was really nervous on camera. I didn't speak well and stuff like that. But this is Year in Wrestling Reloaded. I'm going to go back, old school. I'm going to go back to the year I was born and start talking about stuff that happened in 1983. Because in my first Year in Wrestling videos, I started talking about 1987. Because that's the year I became a fan and started watching. But 1983 is the year I was born, and business really started to pick up in 1983 for pro wrestling. The first Starrcade happened. Vince McMahon took over WWF from his father. I believe he bought him out, or he bought the company from his father. So Vince McMahon Jr. was in control of the former WWF, and now it's just called WWF, World Wrestling Federation. As I said, NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, was getting off the ground because they were having the first Starrcade closed circuit pay-per-view. So here are some news items. This is part 1 of the Year in Wrestling Reloaded 1983. This is part 1. There will be a part 2 where I will talk about Bob Backlund losing the WWF title in Madison Square Garden. That was pretty shocking at the time. I didn't watch in 83 because I was only a couple months old. And I wasn't around the entire year of 83 because I was born at the end of July. So, still I went back probably when I was 15, 14 years old, or 16 years old, I've gone back. I've seen the entire first Starrcade. I've seen a lot of events from 87, and it was pretty good. Business was starting to pick up. Pro wrestling was starting to almost hit the mainstream and really become popular. And in 1981 or 82, I'll discuss a little bit about 81 and 82. I didn't see much wrestling. But I know that I've seen this on the network. I've seen Mid-South Wrestling from 1982, 1981. They uploaded a lot of their shows from 81 and 82. I think the entire years of 81 and 82 are uploaded of Mid-South Wrestling if you care to watch it. So in 81 or 82, one of those years, Paul Orndorff and Ted DiBiase had a pretty good feud going in Mid-South. I enjoyed that. And of course, Junkyard Dog was there, One Man Gang was there. A lot of great talent was in Mid-South before they became really famous and went to WWF. So here are some news items that happened in 1983. March 20th, 83, Larry Zbyszko pays Killer Brooks $25,000 for the NWA national title. And then NWA President Bob Geigel strips Larry Zbyszko of the title. I don't know who Killer Brooks was, but Larry Zbyszko paid him off. June 2nd, 1983. Hulk Hogan defeats Antonio Inoki to become the first IWGP Heavyweight Champion. That's historic right there. That happened on June 2nd, 1983. Hulk Hogan defeated Inoki, became the first IWGP Heavyweight Champion. I don't know if he was the first American to win it or if he was their first ever champion. I'm not sure. But it says first. It says the first IWGP Heavyweight Champion, so it must have been the first. July 15th, 1983. In between runs as NWA World Champion, Ric Flair beats David Von Erich in the finals of a 20-man tournament to be crowned the Missouri Champion. The title became vacated when Missouri Champion Harley Race beat Ric Flair for the NWA title on June 10th. October 23rd, 1983, there was a great feud in wrestling going on. Tommy Rich, Wildfire Tommy Rich. The guy was a rookie. The guy was also NWA champion. I think in 83, or 81, one of those years. So Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer. It says the Tommy Rich Buzz Sawyer feud, which has been really raging on for more than 18 months, comes to a bloody climax at the last Battle of Atlanta. Cage match in the Omni, where Tommy Rich defeats Sawyer, but Harley looks like the winner. Now this match is actually on the WWE Network. The cage match between Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer. It's on the network. It has no commentary, but it's still fun to watch. So that happened on October 23rd. Here's the last news item. The first Starrcade, November 24th. The first Starrcade in Greensboro, North Carolina. The crowd was 15,447. So I'm pretty sure that's a sellout. So then, in another arena, Greensboro Coliseum is joined by 30,000 fans watching it on closed circuit through the Mid-Atlantic region. And the main event of Starrcade 83, we all know, was a Flair for the gold. Ric Flair challenging Harley Race for the NWA title in a cage. So, this ends. Very short video. Also in 1983, Ivan Koloff, before I end, Ivan Koloff, the guy just passed away in 2017. That sucks. But Ivan Koloff in 1983 was actually part of the WWF for a little while. And then he decided to leave, go to the Carolinas and go work for NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions. But in 1983, Ivan Koloff was actually a part of the WWF. And his manager was Classy Freddie Blassie, I believe. So that was kind of weird that Ivan Koloff, of course, we know he defeated Bruno for the world title in the 70s, and then he decided to come back in 83, and then he just disappeared. He decided maybe got a better offer to go to the NWA, I don't know. But for a short time, the Russian Bear Ivan Koloff was in the WWF in 83. If you look it up on YouTube, just type in Ivan Koloff, WWF, and a lot of his matches from 83 will come up. And a lot of them were against just a lot of job guys. So this ends Year in Wrestling 1983 Part 1 Reloaded. I'll be back with a Part 2 on Friday. where part 2 I will discuss the entire card for Starrcade 83, and I'll talk about Bob Backlund losing the WWF Championship after he had it for a very long time. He had it for years and years and years. He lost it to the Iron Sheik in December in Madison Square Garden. It was pretty shocking and pretty historic. And then a month later, Iron Sheik would drop it to Hulk Hogan, who came over from the AWA because in 1983, Verne Gagne was actually pushing Hogan. Again, before I end this, I'll just talk a little bit about Hogan in the AWA. Verne Gagne was really pushing Hogan, and Hogan was the most over babyface the AWA had. It gave the AWA a shot in the arm that Hogan was a part of their company. He was getting super over. He started talking about Hulkamania, and Hulkamania was running wild. The fans loved it. Hogan was super over in 83 in the AWA. Then he decided to leave because him and Verne Gagne couldn't come to an agreement, and Verne Gagne wanted to rip him off and take more of his merchandise money and not give him any. So Verne Gagne, I believe it's explained on the AWA DVD if you have it, or you can watch the AWA documentary on the network. It's explained that basically Hogan said Verne Gagne was taking like 10% of his income, and he didn't like that. So Verne Gagne said, too bad. That's what I'm going to do, and you can't do anything about it. Well, Hogan and Vince got together, talked on the phone, made an agreement, and Hogan didn't give AWA any notice. He just decided to leave, go to WWF. And of course, Hogan was there before. In 1980 and 1979, he was there. In 1981, he was there when Hogan was part of the WWF under Vince McMahon Sr., but he wasn't there that long. And he was a heel, and his manager was Classy Freddie Blassie. If you got any matches from Hulk Hogan from 81 or 1980, the guy had a lot of hair on top of his head. So anyways, of course, Hogan left AWA in 83, showed up on WWF TV, I believe in December 83, or November 83, one of those days, or one of those months. So this ends now, finally, this ends Year in Wrestling 1983 Part 1 Reloaded. These shows are the Year in Wrestling Reloaded. I'll be talking about 83, 84. I talked about half of 83 already. I'll be talking about 84, 85, 86. Then I'll be talking about a lot of Saturday night main events and the cards that were on those shows. And then when I get up to the 90s, in my first series of Year in Wrestling videos, I talked a lot about the 90s. In the late 80s, I covered every pay-per-view for NWA, WCW, WWF, WWE. I covered all the pay-per-views. So I won't have that much to talk about the 90s, except for a lot of ECW in their big events they put on that were not pay-per-views, but they were monthly big events. Like, they started in 94. It was called The Night the Line Was Crossed. That started in February 94. Then after that, I got a list of their events. And after that, they went on to When Worlds Collide. That was sometime in 94. Then they went on to Hostile City Showdown 94. Then they went on to Heatwave 94. Hardcore Heaven 94. Double Tables 94. The Return of the Funker. That was in, I think, 95. Or maybe that was 94 or 95. Anyways, I'll be talking about a lot of ECW when I get to the 90s. I'm not going to be covering every year like I did in the Year in Wrestling, because this is Year in Wrestling Reloaded. So I'll be just covering a few years over that events I didn't talk about. So there it is. Part 1 of Year in Wrestling Reloaded. 1983's in the books. Hope you enjoyed it. On Friday, I'll do part 2. Have a great weekend. Have a great Thursday. Have a great Friday, everybody. Bye for now.